So bioinformatics and then computational biology. Excuse me. What is the difference? I know that computational biology has been around for a while, and of course bioinformatics is a very new area. So most people find it difficult to get the difference, and they think it's the same. It looks the same, but it's not the same. Now, bioinformatics is, but let me put it this way. Before I give you the difference, let me throw a little more background into bioinformatics. You know, as the world evolves and as human beings or living things evolve, the method through which we study things changes. It's been changing and it will continue to change. At the moment, the way we study pathogens, I mean disease-causing pathogens, like the bacteria, the virus, the fungi, any other, pathogen or organism you can think about, the way we study it has changed. We no longer do it like we used to do before. In the past, you will simply isolate the bacteria or the pathogen, then you culture it or you grow it and study it over time. So you are basically studying the physical and let's say medical characteristics of the pathogen. So you will realize that if somebody is going to talk about, let's say, a specific disease and the causal pathogen is, let's say, a bacteria, the person will be telling you about what that disease or that particular pathogen, the characteristics, and if it causes the disease, what are some of the symptoms? How will you know you have the disease? So if we take a very familiar one with everybody, which is coronavirus, you realize that the medical doctors and co, when they come, they talk about the symptoms, and then how will you know that you have the virus, and what is the nature of the virus? Now, if it affects you, how long will it take for you to be able to realize that you have it? And when it is out of your system, how will you know? So those are the medical characteristics of studying a pathogen. And then they are doing this because they have studied the pathogen, which is the virus, over a long time. So that is how medical studies, or that's how not genomics, that's how we have been studying pathogens over the years. And so as we are evolving, we've come to realize that there is a need. And if you understand the definition of an institution, institutions are simply a body established to satisfy a societal need. When there is no need in a society, you don't establish an institution. So a bioinformatics institute, or the institution called bioinformatics, has been established because there is a need. And the need is that particular gap that has been created in the sciences or the biological science field. And what is it? Let me give this scenario. Too many people got COVID-19. Some didn't even realize that they had it. Some recovered. Some succumbed to it. And some didn't even show symptoms at all. So they were asymptomatic. There were some who were symptomatic but mild. Some had severe symptoms. And then some didn't even realize that they have COVID-19 at all, till date. So there were other people who were exposed to it. They never got it. Some were exposed to it, they got it. So if you are studying a pathogen, you will try to, or when you are establishing an institution like bioinformatics, you are looking at that particular gap which has been created over a long time, maybe not to anybody's fault, but to the fact that there isn't enough technology or capacity to be able to delve into that area. And that has been the challenge. So if you look at the scenario I gave about COVID-19, then you will ask yourself, why would somebody be asymptomatic? And why is the other person symptomatic? Why are others mild? Why are others, quite so severe symptoms? So if you look at these differences, then you would ask yourself, what is necessitating the difference? So what is necessitating the difference is not the type of virus that attack. It's not that different viruses attack each of them, but it is the fact that the human body or the pathogen requires certain environment to be able to, to exert virulence, or to be able to perpetuate virulence. So what bioinformaticians seek to do is to find out this difference, is to find out why is it that some people may be susceptible to a pathogen, others may be resistant to it. And to do that, you need a lot of technology, you need a lot of other disciplines. Then you put the knowledge together to be able to understand this. And to be able to understand this, you cannot take two viruses and begin to compare them and say that, okay, this is the difference between this virus. How are you going to do that? It's going to be, so if you have to do that, then you will have to do that at a very minute level and know the exact point where the difference is coming from. And to know that, it means you have to go to the minutest level of study of any living thing. And when we were in basic school, we realized that the cell was the basic minute thing that we used to study. But we have come to realize that the cell is not actually the minutest. The minutest is actually the nucleotide. So you have to go all the way to studying the human being. You break it down to the cells, then you break it down to the DNA level, and then when you are getting to the DNA, you are getting to the minutest level like that. Now, to be able to understand this, you need a lot of disciplines up and down, so you would have to know how to be able to or how to even get these minute differences. So that's where the computer knowledge comes in, because you need to know how to be able to use a computer to maybe to understand gene codes, or to write a code that can generate the sequences for you. Then apart from that, you need to have some other knowledge like biology. You need to have some biological knowledge. And because if you don't have the biology knowledge, how will you even know whether there is the minutest level called nucleotide or not? Then apart from that, you also will need some kind of mathematics background, because you need to model whatever that you have found. You have to be able to identify the pattern, and you need to have some statistical background to be able to, because when you are dealing with things that are counting, quantitative and qualitative, and you have to do any analysis on it, you need statistical background. So there comes the name. So you realize that we need biology, we need IT, which is the information, we need mathematics, and we need statistics. So that's why we have bioinformatics. The info, the IT, the biology, and then in that order. So that's how bioinformatics where it comes in. It tries to just build that particular gap, and then make sure that. But this became necessary, or this became very important, because of the design of the fact that we now have machines that can sequence the human genome, can sequence any genome at all. I'm talking about the next generation sequencing machines that are all over the place. And so because technology has evolved and we can sequence the genome, we can determine the sequences or the order of how the genome is being arranged. That's what I mean by sequencing. So if we can have a technology that can let us know that, okay, within the human cell or within the nucleus, the DNA that is packed there, this is how it is arranged. So the sequence is not anything. We are trying to look at the arrangement of the DNA inside the nucleus of a cell. So when we have determined that particular arrangement, what is the next thing? So the next thing is to find out, okay, the whole of that arrangement, are they being broken down into shorter pieces that may be carrying a specific information, or that may be doing something, one or two things? Yes, it is. It's not as if it's just one thing. There are individual things that are joined together that will give you the entire DNA, which is a packed form. It is packed into something we call the chromosome. So to determine that particular arrangement is what we call the sequencing. So then each of the arrangement is called a sequence. And so the sequence are represented or are being called nucleotide. You have them as the guanine, the thymine, in that order. Now, after that, you've been able to obtain that particular arrangement. You would have to be able to do further studies into that, and the further studies is what now gives us the what is it, the clear understanding of what bioinformatics is all about. So when we get to that point, then you will get to get the difference that there is bioinformatics and then computational biology. The computational biology will be based on modeling, to model a biological event or a phenomenon, and then the model is about prediction. You model it for, let's say, CSM outbreak, then you can pick the data and you model it. You come out with some figures to know whether the disease will elapse at this time or it will continue to grow, looking at the reproductive numbers. So that's where computational biology comes in. You use the computational biology to do basically modeling. Bioinformatics go beyond that. It goes beyond that to find out what is it, the genes that are involved in any pathogenesis or any virulence. And so if we are talking about bioinformatics and computational biology, these are the clear difference I just want us to know. Computational biology will aim at modeling. Bioinformatics will go further than just getting a model to do a prediction, to go and find out the exact cause at the genomic level, or let's say at the gene level, and even would go further to even examine the genes individually, like the way I have already explained. So it's not like in the basic school where we end the basic life as a cell. No, when you go into the cell, then you have to find out what is contained inside the cell, and then that's where you get to the DNA, and then you continue to look at the DNA, how it is being packed and arranged. Then when you get that, you may want to know this particular packed arrangement, is it just one thing, or they are divided into sections that carry specific information or that perform specific role, and that's where you are doing annotation and whatsoever. So bioinformatics will go into all these things, and I'm saying this became necessary because of the gap or the lacuna that has been created in the science field or the biological science field of study. And the biological science field of study, the gap is that we used to study pathogens by culturing them. By this time around, the advent of the sequencing machines and everything, who can allow people to study and understand what the pathogens at the very minutest level, which is at the nucleotide level or the gene level. And that's what bioinformatics is doing. Thanks very much, and that's the rant for today. My name is Big Bright. We'll talk tomorrow. And to those of you who are watching, thank you very much. I'm unable to mention your names. Maybe God's willing tomorrow, when we come up with another video, then all right, I understand. Yeah, I get the question, but you see, I can't write all that I have said. I know, it's difficult for people to get data to watch video, but what I've also said is so much within some 5 minutes, so it will be difficult to write all of it out. All right, so thank you very much.